Alright, Clammy here from Exciter. How's it going with the band?
They're going really awesome. We just finished recording the new album, Death Machine. It'll be released by Massacre on October 29th.
So this album is not released yet. We've seen it on MySpace and that. It's amazing. The sound quality is very fresh. You guys gonna get a promo video going with this also?
Video probably not. Possibly something live at some point, but there's no plans right now to do anything like any kind of like promo video or anything like that. I said, but you never know what shows up on YouTube.
So what do you think of the internet era? You know, for Exciter, is it working good?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely helped to let people know that the band's still around, and there's a lot of people that, you know, over time the band was kind of quiet, and they thought, you know, that we had disappeared or just broken up or whatever, and then every now and then you run into people and they're like, wow, you guys are still around, and it's like, yeah, there was a lull in the mid-'90s, but other than that, the band's been active the whole time. The internet's been amazing for promotion and getting the word out and everything, and it's always fun to play shows and then come back and check out and see pictures and videos and whatnot that fans are shooting, and it's great to just get our name and our images out there.
And also too, with the internet, it establishes new fans too that never even heard of Exciter, let's say, in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exposes us to a much wider audience for sure.
Would you say in your crowds, at your concerts, there is new people that would have not known Exciter 2 years, 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when we're in Europe, I noticed that there's a lot of kids. Like I'm talking like 14, 15, 16-year-old kids at a lot of the shows that we play, and we play on a lot of festivals and things like that too. And it's amazing that you see the range of ages from these like 14-year-old kids all the way up to guys in their 50s, and it's a really, really varied audience over there in Europe. Metal never went away in Europe. It went really underground over here for a long, long time. It's kind of making a comeback over the last few years. But mainly when we're playing in North America, I notice that for the most part the audience members are older, whereas over in Europe, it's a lot of young people. And these people, the kids, they really know their stuff. I mean, these are like 15, 16-year-old kids, weren't even alive when 80s metal was around, and they know more about it than I do. I've gotten introduced to new bands, well, not new bands, but bands that were around from the 80s that I just never heard of back then, And I lived through it when I was a kid.
Because maybe we didn't have internet at that time, us.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was a lot harder to discover new bands back in the 80s and the early 90s, before the internet, of course. I had to go out searching, and when I was younger, I would go to, I lived in Montreal, and there was a store called Rock Off Stock, which specialized in imports and really rare and hard-to-find music. So I would go there all the time and just buy records. I saw a really cool-looking album cover, I'd buy the record and go home and listen to it, and I discovered, bands like Iron Maiden and things like that. That's how I discovered them. Nowadays, though, you can go onto the internet, of course, and, there's a million bands out there, and you can just click and check out. You can go to their MySpace or their websites and things like that, and they always have songs that you can download and you can listen. And so it's pretty amazing, and the amount of information that's out there is like unreal. Like there's whole complete discographies and biographies and information that just wasn't available to guys like me when I was a teenager.
Talk about your bass guitar for a minute. What type of a make you have there for your bass?
The bass is a Moser Custom Shop Arachnid Ultra. It's a handmade custom bass. The company is, they were based in California. They just moved to Arizona, though. Basically, Neil Moser is the guy who designed the BC Rich Bitch and all the fancy electronics on the old BC Rich guitars back in the 80s. And he started up his own company a few years ago, and funny enough, my bass is actually the first order that they ever built. And it's totally custom, totally handmade, and built to my specifications. It's like literally the most amazing instrument I've ever played. And it's obviously very visually, eye-catching. And the cool thing is as awesome as it looks, it plays even better.
Cool. And this bass makes it on the albums of Exciter, I take it?
Yeah, on Death Machine, and I played it on Thrash Speed Burn.
I've seen on your MySpace there's a video of you doing, some sort of bass thing, but then it rains or something like that. That little clip.
You talking about the little studio clip?
Studio clip. Now, what are you playing? Is it a Marshall amp you're playing your bass through?
Yeah, I play through vintage Marshalls. Lemmy from Motorhead's like the big influence on me for my bass playing. I actually started off playing guitar 20 odd years ago. Oh, no more than that now, but 25 years ago now, and I switched to bass about a dozen or 13 years ago. It was kind of by accident, really. I was in a band. We didn't have a bass player, so I said, well, I've got a Rickenbacker bass. I'll plug it into my Marshall stack, and I'll just play rhythm guitar and bass, and and we switched over that. So my rig is actually based a lot around like Lemmy's rig, which I play old Marshall super bass amps. I got a 73 and a 74, and two cabinets. I got a 412 bass cab and a 215 bass cab, which I play through as well. And for this album, I actually ran both heads and daisy chained them and had one head running each cabinet. So I got a much thicker sound and a very different sound than I had on Thrash Beat Burn.
And with this, it's all mic'd from there, and then that's where we get the tone.
That's right, yeah. I always like the sound that comes out of my speakers, so I get them. If we play live, I always get the amps mic'd, and in the studio, obviously, the amp is mic'd. There's a direct signal in there, too, just blended in for a little bit of... but the pickup that's in the bass is a really, really high output pickup, and even when you're plugged into the board, you're getting some distortion out of it. So it's a pretty raunchy sound that I got. Not as heavily distorted as Lemmy's, but it's close.
Like that, you have full sounding sound, microphones and DI box.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys got any tour dates coming out any time?
Any tours? The next shows that we're going to be playing, we got 3 shows coming up in South America. We're playing in Argentina, Chile, and Brazil in March. So those are the next 3 shows. Possibility of going back to South America later next year, and of course there's always European shows coming up. They usually go to Europe 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. So
would you say it's good traveling at those countries? Do you bring a lot of equipment while you travel?
When we travel, we just bring our guitars. Like John brings 2 guitars, I bring my bass. The promoters at where we play supply the amps and the drums and everything, because it just would be too expensive to cart all that stuff with us. And it's just easier that way too, less stuff to deal with, So we just tell them ahead of time, we need this, 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 and this, and they provide it. Of course, they supply PA and stage crew and things like that.
Well, that works out good then, because you don't have to have all that expense in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Your album's going to be released in what month you said?
It'll be actually October 29th is the release date for it.
Okay, in October 29th. And this is going to be a worldwide release?
I think for now it's going to be mostly, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's Europe and possibly South America for now, and North American release coming hopefully later in the year. Last for Thrash Burn, that's the way it worked, so I'm assuming it's going to work the same way. Is
it because there's a bigger demand at these places?
Yeah, I mean, our main fan base is over in Europe, and our record label is based in Germany, so I guess it's easier for them to do the release in Europe first and then work out distribution deals with other countries later on.
Well, that's interesting, considering we're in Canada and we get it after.
Yeah, I know, and what's really odd, too, is that the 3 releases before Thrash Beat Burn, which were New Testament, Blood of Tyrants, and The Dark Command, were only available in Canada as imports. So even though we live in Ottawa, if you went to a record store in Ottawa and you wanted to buy one of those Exciter CDs, you had to pay import prices, like $30 or something like that, which is it's kind of silly, really, but it's the way it works out sometimes with distribution. On Thrash Beat Burn, though, we had North American distribution, so people were able to go into stores in Canada and the U.S. and buy them at like the regular CD prices, like $15 or something like that, as opposed to the crazy high import prices. So the hope is, of course, that we get that Massacre works out a distribution deal with a North American label, and that people can get them here without having to pay through the nose.
That's interesting, how it always works out like that. You're in, Canada, and then it's an import. But you guys sell your merchandise at your concerts, right?
Yeah.
And with that, you can buy the CD at the concerts, let's say you're playing.
Oh, yeah, sometimes we do. It depends on depends where we're playing. Like I say, most of the time we're playing over in Europe, so we don't bring CDs with us, we bring shirts and things like that. If we do domestic shows, like if we do shows in Canada or the U.S., we'll sometimes bring CDs if we happen to have any on hand. We don't always have CDs on hand.
But it's a good idea, because then
yeah.
they're not selling it at import price.
Yeah, well, if I'm sure that if they don't have the domestic distribution for this album, that we'll be bringing CDs with us anytime we play in North America for sure.
Well, Clammy, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Look forward to seeing this release.
Thanks very much. It was a great pleasure to be on the show.
You have a good night.
You too. Thank you.